NRL round 25, New Zealand Warriors, Manly, done and dusted. Let's take a look how this one played out. Hey team, welcome back into the Warriorholic. A little bit jaded here. Arrived in Tokyo after a long bloody flight yesterday. Not much sleep last night. Off the back of a fun night up there at Mount Smart on Friday night. New Zealand Warriors get it done, 29-22 over Manly. Geez, first and foremost, I just got to say what an awesome crowd that was to be a part of on Friday night. Some of those cheers that we got going there with the Warriors, man, it was outstanding. Reminded me of a football match. So hope that continues to build and the crowd starts to come up with a few more chants, because I think that really lifts the boys. So it was a great way to sort of celebrate the Daniel Anderson round. Crowd going nuts and a good win to the Warriors. The game itself, probably going back 5 weeks, a lot of people might have thought this would have been a bit of an easy game against Manly, but traditionally we've always struggled against them. They've always played well at Mount Smart, and I think they really turned up on Friday night, and I think that's exactly what we needed. We don't need these big blowouts at the moment. We need teams who will genuinely challenge us like we're going to get in the semis, so they did that. I've got to give big props out to, I sort of listed up all of their players I thought played well, and it's pretty much most of their team. Their back line, with their back three, particularly with Garrick and Saab, Kohler, they carved us up a few times. I think Harper actually played pretty well for a guy who hasn't got a lot of game time this year, apart from his dodgy little elbows to the faces and the like. DCE was clinical again. Jake Arthur really stood up. I think he showed he's got a lot of potential, and a bit of a shame he might get stuck behind Brooks next year. May see him move to another club. Schuster didn't do a heck of a lot. Got pulled without making a run, which is a bit of an odd one there. But most of them all, I thought their forwards really stood up. Their middles, they limited our meters. A lot of our forwards were slightly down on their meters than what we've had over the past few weeks. I thought Olet Kalotu, his defense on our chasing their kicks, he chopped about 30 meters out of Montoya's kick return game that we've seen from recently. He was right down on his numbers. I thought Tuilagi was really good on the other side. Jake Trbojevic was soft. Jake Trbojevic was really solid as well. But particularly Kepi and Sipley in the front, they really stood up and held their own up against AFB and the like. So big props to Manly. I know Sebo was having a bit of a mare about some of the calls, particularly about the one chance taken out Garrick there in the air. But that's the rules, and to be fair, I think both teams got some shit sandwiches with the calls. DCE's forward pass there just before half time, we saw Harper dropping elbows into faces that weren't called. They were offside, sort of with their line speed most of the night. But at the end of the day, I think the players decided the outcome. It was great not to see anyone get simbing, because I hate those games where you get sort of 12 against 13 or the like. So once again, well done to Manly for turning up, putting it on us. Gave us exactly what we needed. Well done to their fans. There were a lot of fans who made the trip over, and I went up and complimented them all on a good game, and they were all really humble. A lot of them said that they were right behind the Warriors now that they're unlikely to make the 8. So that's one thing that's been really nice this season. Across all of my social media platforms, is hearing so many comments from the teams who are out of contention, saying that they're jumping on the back of the Warriors. So it shows we're playing a good brand of footy, and it's a likeable team with what's going on at the moment. Right. On to the Warriors. We'll get into the player breakdowns in a moment, and we'll compare the stats. But overall, I thought we played pretty well. I didn't feel like we were going to lose that game at any stage, even though they got ahead of us at some points. I always felt like we were going to come back. We just had a little bit too much. But again, the air is letting us down there. Poor handling, some pretty bad misses on defense there. But overall, we came out pretty much unscathed injury-wise. Apparently, Egan's all good. Dallin's knee's fine. So, with Tamati Martin potentially coming back next week, Jazz only out for a couple of weeks, we're looking pretty good going into the finals. So, let's have a quick look at how the two teams, sort of went up from a statistical perspective, and then I'll do the player breakdowns. So, 29-22, 5 tries to 4, 4 out of 5 conversions versus 3 out of 4 in a drop goal. And I think that was the score was a fair reflection on the game. We probably could have got 3 or 4 more tries if we'd managed to get the ball down and so forth. So, well done to them for being really hungry on defence and holding us up a few times. But still, it showed we could create a few more opportunities than them. Possession wise, 54-46, probably a reflection on the score there. Good to see our completion rate up to 80. It was better than being down in the 60s and 70s like it has been. Still 36 from 45, 9 uncompleted sets. Too much. We've really got to get that number up higher and closer to the 90s if we're really going to be competitive. That said, we saw the Storm last night were pretty scrappy, and I think at this time of year fatigue really starts to kick in for a lot of teams, so it won't be just us who's playing pretty rough. All runs there, 182 versus 78. Run meters, 150 more meters from us, not a huge amount in that. Post contact meters, they were pretty much matched us there with 388 for us, with 378 for them. Line breaks 6-4. Tackle breaks, more tackle breaks from them, 31 versus 26, so it was good from their effort. Average distance per set pretty much exactly the same. Kick distance, what's that, 10 meters in it, so not a huge amount there. Overall kicking meters though, interesting to see SJ lost that battle. Maybe that's a reflection on the fact they were kicking from deeper. We got up for a lot of attacking kicks this week, which was good to see. Forced dropouts, 1 apiece. This is a big one for me over the past few weeks. Our kick defusal has been pretty bad. Only 33% effectiveness there. We're just not quite getting that timing right. We're not able to get up there and get those blockers in against teams with big wingers are up there getting high. Saab's probably one of the tallest guys in the comp there on the edge with a great vertical leap. So we're just got to really sort of sort that out, because those bounces of the balls can really cost you up against a clinical team. We were able to hold them out a lot of times when we did drop that ball, but still, it's something we need to work on. So hopefully the boys are getting that sorted during the week. Tackles made, 289 versus 338, so they a lot of time on defense there, but a good tackle efficiency for 90% for them and only 84 point, or close to 85 for us. Missed tackles 31. It seems a lot, but like I said, I think our average is 28, which is about third in the comp. So you make missed tackles. I think it's just whether they lead to tries or not. And this weekend it did cost us. Well, actually, the tries that we let in to Saab, they didn't even get close to them, so they weren't even missed tackles there. So yeah, that was a bit of a worry. Ruck infringements, just the one from us this week, which was good. Penalties conceded, 7 apiece, not too bad, and no inside the 10. So I think our discipline improved a lot there. I think they could have got pinged a lot more, because I think they've learnt. It started probably against the Gold Coast, and similarly we saw last week and this week. They're rushing us, to take that time away from SJ, particularly when we get into their red zone. Trying to particularly disrupt those the block plays, so trying to get SJ's timing off, so we can't get that double runner running at their third defender, which is often what leads to our tries. We saw Dallin score off that again, taking time away from his kick. So we're being disciplined, but I think we're going to have to hope that the refs are a little bit stricter on the offsides going forward. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit of a struggle for SJ to create at at the level he's been doing all this season. So overall, like I said, I think that the stats reflected that we were slightly better on the day. They played really well. I think last night they beat a lot of teams in the comp, so well done to them. But just probably a reflection of their season. They just haven't quite had it together. When you've got a guy like Schuster there who's one of their highest paid players who doesn't run the ball once, you can't expect to win too many games. Now into our individual player ratings, CNK at the back. I gave him an 8.5. 183 metres again, 23 runs in total, outstanding. Post-contact metres 51. You'll see like a few of our players' post-contact metres were down this week, and that's kind of an indication to how good their defence was. I thought Olakolotu and Kepi and a couple of other guys, Jake Travojevic, their kick chase was outstanding, and they really limited our ability to make that post-contact meters that we normally see from Chance and particularly Montoya there. But not too bad. Like I said, 183 meters is still really good. His defense 60%, but again he only made 3 tackles, but he missed one and had one ineffective tackle there. Tackle breaks, just the one from Chance this week, which again we were quite a bit down on our tackle breaks. Line break assist 1 and 1 try assist. So overall I thought he had a really solid game. So 8.5, I'm not too sure if I was a bit harsh or I was a bit soft. It wasn't his best game, but given the situation, I think he played really, really well. Um, yeah, so I think 8.5 is relatively fair for the big man there. It's definitely a pass mark. Dallin Watene-Zelezniak, clear favourite in the Warriors this week. Most people giving him the 3 points. I gave him an 8.5. Look, he got 3 tries, which was outstanding. Particularly that second one where he beat about 9 guys. 155 metres is still really good. Post contact 40 metres, 6 tackle breaks, 3 line breaks, 3 tries, but also had a couple of errors and a couple of handling errors in amongst that. So that sort of balanced it a little bit for me. Hard to give someone a 9 with those, with the errors in the game, but 8.5, a very, very solid effort. I was a little bit worried there with that knee for a while. You could see him clearly limping out there at the ground on the day, but good to see sort of freed up there and, look, wasn't limping or anything after the game where I saw him walking around and talking to fans. So hopefully he'll be back full strength next week. Marcelo Montoya didn't have his best game. Like I said, he really struggled to break those first up tackles with his kick returns this week, and I don't think that was a reflection on him. I think it was just the fact that they were getting 2 or 3 really big bodies up there quickly, due to the height of Daly Cherry Evans' kicks, which meant he was trying to literally run through a brick wall where he'd normally be dealing with maybe a winger or a centre, with just 1 or 2 tackles with his first point of contact. So well done to them. Tackle efficiency 80%. But just the 4 tackles, no misses, and the 1 ineffective tackle. That said, they obviously don't count those ones where he just, I don't know why he didn't trust his inside men jamming in on Daly Cherry Evans or the centre or whatever, 3 times there, which led to the Saab tries. Watching where he's standing, our defence is quite compressed, and he's sort of a good 10-15 metres in from touch, where Saab was sitting right out on the edge. With that speed, I think you need to stand a little bit wider and perhaps sort of don't give him that much gap between you and the sideline, and trust if he cuts back inside that the centre's going to cover him there. We just gave him too much space with that speed, and it's something we're going to have to learn from, because we'll come up against a lot of teams in the finals who've got those really fast wingers. So bit of a disappointment there from me. No tackle breaks from him again. I'll give that as a tick to their defence rather than his poor effort. But handling errors and handling errors 3 and 1 there. So again, he played solid. Really good under the high ball. He took all those hit-ups when he had to. But just those poor defence reads that really cost us there. If he mans up there and covers 2 of those, I think that it's a completely different game. Hopefully he sorts it out though, and it's not just him. Obviously his positional play there will be something that's predetermined, but what do I know? I'm sure that Wemby's got a better idea about it than me, but I'm sure they'll come up with an idea of how to handle it better next week. So with Monty, just to summarise, I couldn't give him much more than a 6, just purely on those tries conceded, but I'm sure he'll be back. If it wasn't for those tries, I think he's still up there around an 8 with his positive contribution. Rocco Berry, I thought he was more solid than last week. He got more involved. You can see that by 77 metres run there. He's down to 40 last week. And I think he hit the line really hard. Got nailed once really well by Jake Arthur. That was a great shot on him. But, he wasn't afraid to really put in a couple of those dirty hits. Again, interesting to see we kicked a lot down to their right-hand side rather than their left. So we didn't see as much of Rocco and Dallin chasing this week, but he still made 19 tackles, 3 misses and 1 ineffective tackle there. 2 tackle breaks, 1 line break assist, 1 try assist, 1 error and 1 handling error. You'll see a lot of our backs had errors. I've decided to put them all in this week just to show you how many we had, because we had 13 errors again all across. Look, I thought he did really well to handle Kohler. Really strong guy. He's got so much speed, but I don't think he got through and got any line breaks on him. So I really like his defense particularly. And again, his ability to get that tap onto Dallin to put him away in the corner there. Overall, nothing too much to complain about for me with Rocco. Hopefully he gets his involvement up a little bit more. But yeah, solid 8 for me, as purely on the fact, it's hard to compare like an 8 for Rocco versus an 8 for someone like Chance. I think a lot of this is based on my expectation for their personal level as well, not necessarily comparing apples for apples. I'm not a scientist, mate. This isn't statistically accurate. It's just my feeling and just how I do it. Adam Pompey, I gave him a 7. 93 metres was slightly down, but tackle efficiency and his number of tackle involvements was much higher there with 85%. He was down in the 60s last week. I think he only made something like 8 tackles. He made 17 this week. 2 missed tackles and 1 ineffective tackle there. 1 tackle break and 1 error. So he had a kind of quiet game, but he kicked really well. I thought, he's making the post contact meters. We've just got to get that combination with him and Montoya sorted there as far as defense. I don't blame too much of it on Adam, to be honest. There's a bit more on Montoya this week. And like I'll mention in a minute, I still feel like he's struggling to link really well with Metcalf. I don't know who you put that on. I'm not smart enough to figure that one out quite yet. But yeah, 7 out of 10. I think Harper stepped up and played really well against him, but wasn't like he dominated him or anything. So not too bad from Adam. Look, Metcalf. Oh man, I feel like a dick because I kind of want to give him a higher score for the so the X factor he delivers, the runs he's making. I was surprised he only ran for 58 metres. I felt like he'd run for more there. He kicked more this week, 3 kicks for 93 metres, which was probably a sign that we were going left a little bit there because of the pressure they're putting on SJ, or maybe it was SJ's quad still playing up. As we saw, he didn't do the goal kicking. Tackle efficiency though, 69.5, 16 tackles made is pretty good, but 6 misses and 1 ineffective. Just the 1 tackle break and an error. I was talking to a couple of the guys while I was up, and Brad Inger, both really good analysts of the game before the game on Friday night, and they both kind of felt the same, that it seems his first instinct is just to look forward and run, which is good, but we still need him to be aware of the opportunity to pass a little bit more. An earlier shift, we saw Pompey, like he's got that really good step which got him past the first tackler, sort of at least halfway through the first tackle a bunch of times in the weekend. That I'd love to see him and Pompey getting a bit more him and Montoya getting a little bit more space rather than Metcalf just running a lot. So I'd like to see him improve that passing game and link a little bit better, which is why I've been a little bit harsh on the score there with a 6.5. I'm really curious to see what happens this week if Tamati Martin comes back. For me personally, I think we only made 7 interchanges for the past 3 games in a row. We've still got 1 up our sleeve. I think our forwards are fit enough to carry the extra player. For me, I'll put Tamati Martin on the bench and look to give him 20 minutes. A lot of people are saying bring him into cup, but I feel like rather than minutes in his legs at the moment, at this time of year, it's combinations we have to build, and that doesn't help by him playing, not playing with the boys. So I'd look to give him 20 minutes off the bench there if he's right on the weekend, see how he links, because we saw he just started the year really, really well. Even from that first trial, there was nothing about him that gave me the impression he'd struggle to fit back in. So you can only try. And personally, thinking about it, I think this would depend on opposition and the size of their full packs and the like, but I quite like the idea of having Metcalf on the bench in the finals to come on in the last 20 minutes as kind of like a really quick middle player, using that speed around the ruck and the like, and using Tamati Martin for that, coordinating the D and unlocking that left-hand edge there. Again, I don't claim to know enough about footy to make a professional judgment on this, but I'm just kind of guessing maybe what Webby does and what I think might be an interesting way to do it. But again, I like the way he's continued to improve his confidence and his running and his support play. That's great, but again, a 5'8", a half, you need to link up and unlock that edge, brother. If we can do that, you'll be the man. SJ, it's interesting, not too many people gave him votes this week for his for the YREMs. If they did, it was maybe 1 point. For me, I thought he was really, really solid, considering how fast they were coming up out of the line and targeting him. Like I said, so often offside there, to get that little step away, to still be able to get that ball away, to get that kick in. I think his kicking game was outstanding. He gave us really good field position. We saw he kicked that drop goal when he needed to. So for me, I still gave him an 8. Could have even given him more, but I'm just you're comparing against a 9.5 for SJ this year. Some of them being absolutely world class. I thought he was really, really good, and I think you'll find that he'll probably still get 1 point for Daily M's, because we tend to notice like the big finishes by Dallin, or we give SJ points when he gets the tries or pulls off the big move, but you can't underestimate those fundamentals that he was doing to control that game there under so much pressure. So well done to him. Hopefully that quad again settles down a little bit so he can get a bit more confident with those big kicks. And I don't think there's any need to rush him back to kicking the goals either with the way Pompey's kicking. Adam Fanua-Blake. It's like any normal player who delivered the numbers he delivered in the weekend, you'd probably give him a 9.5 or a 10. But after last week with 270 metres there, 193, a little bit of a drop there, so I could only give him a 9 to show a little bit of a difference between last week's effort and this week. 71 minutes played, 24 runs, 193 metres, 65 post contact, tackle efficiency of 80%, a couple of missed tackles and a couple of ineffective tackles, and one of them was very costly. He was the first player to miss Jake Arthur there. But then so did SJ and so did Chance. Just the one tackle break, one error and one handling error. It's just a big ups to their middles, just showing by the lack of tackle breaks and the lack of meters. This week he played the same, pretty much the same amount of minutes, or exactly the same amount of minutes. Sipley's not one of their starting props. They've got a few injuries, that's why he's in there. I wonder when he comes off contract. Might be an interesting boy to get back to the club there as our second prop. I really like him. I think he's a huge body, underrated. I think he'd be a really, really interesting backup prop or a partner for AFB if we could pick him up cheaply. He's the kind of player I think we need. We're not going to go out there and pay $1 million for a Payne Haas or a Fasu Malawi. But a guy like Sipley, he's obviously from the Warriors. Came through the grades, I think, with Jazz there. So yeah, I'm curious. But yeah, back to Adam. Overall, again, another really, really solid game. He had that howler of a handling area. Granted, the ball was up around his shoulder, but you don't expect that from him. And you've seen a couple of times lately, he's just quite missed that tackle at a vital time on a half. But shit, how can you blame him with the amount of miles coming out of those legs, and the fatigue must be kicking in. So still 9 out of 10 for me, brother. Keep it up. Bunty Afoa coming back into the side after Jazz went down with hammy earlier on in the week. Luckily only out for a couple of weeks, Jazz, so he'll be back if we need him. Just the 17 minutes, 5 runs, 35 metres, post-contact metres just a 7. Tackle efficiency though, 100%, making 7 tackles there. One very costly error off the kickoff there, but I think again that was a pretty piss poor pass from Egan actually, up around the head, but you'd normally expect him to take those. Look, he did a job. Again, I don't expect the big meters off him in that first sort of 15-20, but getting in the middle there, tying up those tackles, making normally no errors. I think there'll be a role for him in the last few games here and into the finals, depending on the pack we're playing. It's good to have that extra good big body there. Shit, if Adam went down, I don't know whether he comes on and is able to cover that position because of the lack of the meters there, but still, I think Bunty still plays a role. I gave him 6.5 purely because it's hard with just the 17 minutes, but did his job. Got in there, got amongst it. So see what happens next week. When Mitch Barnett's back, he may drop out. Wade Egan. I mentioned a couple of times, AFB, the pass to AFB, the pass to Bunty up around the head, which wasn't ideal, giving away those couple of errors. Played the 61 minutes. I think it was a slight hammy or something they mentioned. He was apparently good to come back on, but they just took him off precautionary. 3 runs there, 33 metres, 10 post contact, 82% tackle efficiency, 28 tackles there in just 61 minutes, but 6 misses is quite a lot. But they've got some big, I think a couple of those would have been Ola Kalotu breaking tackles there. And the one error wasn't his best game from his passing perspective, slightly down on minutes due to the injury, but again, his ruck manipulation, he put in a really good kick there to get that repeat set. Um, you know, should have maybe even 7.5 is a little bit rough on the guy, but we've seen what his best game looks like. So again, this is not a comparison to the other players. This is compared to what I think a 10 out of 10 would be for him. So I think a 7.5 is fair. It was good to have Lussick on the bench there to come on, and so we didn't have to sort of push him out there with that little bit of a niggle. But yeah, I'd like a little bit more from him as far as the passes getting down in the breadbasket rather than up above the head next week, Jackson Ford, I gave him an 8 again. I think heavily involved, does a lot of work, 78 minutes. I didn't even notice him get subbed actually. I'm not sure he got replaced for. 10 runs, 72 metres, so slightly down on last week on the metres and the number of runs. Post-contact 20, but 89% tackle efficiency, 35 tackles with just the one miss and 3 ineffective tackles, 2 tackle breaks, but 3 penalties conceded. I think it's harsh. Some people give him a bit of shit about it, but I've heard a few of the other players talk about it in interviews that it's just he's so competitive, trying to get down that extra little, second to let the boys get back in D. But it's a fine line, and I think once you get a bit of a name for it, maybe you get pinged a bit more. But I feel like Manly, the amount they were holding us down in the tackle, they could have got penalised another 15 times compared to us. So sometimes it's a bit tough. So I'm not going to be too critical of him. Our total penalties conceded were only 6 for the game, so it's not like it really impacted on the game too much. But overall, I thought he was very, very solid. The power he's hitting the line with, those post-contact meters there against a very tough defending fullback. Well done. And you saw him get called out in the Fox commentary a number of times for being one of our players that's really, really, turned up and had a huge season on the back of very little expectation. And again, before the game, chatting with the other Warriors content creators, every single one of them just think, we were just joking about how we expected him to be kind of a cup player who was just there for cover. He's turned up and become a starter, guaranteed starter every week. So well done, Jackson. I think again, Marata stepped it up. He's taking it up a level, controlling that aggression, no penalties, no ruck infringements, nothing conceded this week from the negative aspect. So I gave him an 8.5, played 62 minutes, 10 runs for 99 metres, 10 post-contact. Tackle efficiency, this is where he really improved this week. 96%, he's normally down around 80% there, normally making around maybe 15 to 18 tackles. He made 27 in the weekend with no misses and just the one ineffective tackle. So he's really becoming a force over on that edge there. 3 tackle breaks, the 1 line break which led to that try, that was outstanding. He showed the wheels to granted Garrett was injured, but to get there with Kohler, one of the fastest guys in the game, chasing him. That was a great effort, really turned the game for us so we could sit back and enjoy the last 5 minutes. So yeah, not too much more I could ask for him. If he can keep that up, I think, he's showing to me that I look at Ali Katoa had a massive game for Melbourne yesterday, but I don't think I'd bring him back. I still really like what Marata and both Ford and him are doing as a combination, so really proud of that effort, particularly on the reduction in the negative plays there. So great game, my man. Tohu Harris, I don't even know why I bother. Well, I actually didn't enter the score this week. 9 out of 10 every week, this man. Shit. It's so funny to see him turn up there and just bare feet in a t-shirt. I'm sitting there freezing my butt off before the game. Just chilled out there walking around. I was thinking, having a chuckle to myself, old Freddie Fiddler would love that, earthing himself with the ground there before the game. But 71 minutes this week, so it's good they gave him a little bit of a break. 18 runs, 133 metres, 42 post-contact, 92% with 36 tackles made, just the 3 misses, no ineffective tackles. Tackle breaks, he's not huge for making tackle breaks. He's normally like 1 or 2 a game, but he had the 5 this week, 1 line break. Again, I love the way he's able to interact with the refs these days. You can see how vocal he is with the team in the huddle now. Everything you could ever want from a captain. 9 out of 10. What more can I say? Outstanding. Dylan Walker played bigger minutes this week. He was only down around the 20-something last week, potentially because of that injury. Played 54 minutes this week, 100 metres, which is pretty bloody good. from 15 runs there. Tackle efficiency 88% there with 30 tackles in 54 minutes. It's pretty good. Just the 2 misses and the 2 ineffective. It's odd. He's not standing out as much as he has in the past, but he's not making mistakes. I think he's maybe playing a bit of a tighter role, and maybe he's not playing as much first receiver or something. I'm not sure what the difference is. I feel like when he was coming on, back when he first came back from that toe injury, there was a significant increase in the speed that he brought, but it didn't stand out as much this weekend. And maybe that was a reflection again on Manly's D and their fast, very fast, very fast line speed. I gave him a 7.5 because he didn't do much wrong, and maybe I just didn't really see the things that were the tighter things, but very, very solid again. So great man to have there at 14. But yeah, hard to know. Hopefully he has a real big one next week against the Dragons, and maybe does stand out a little bit more for me. But again, 7.5, I'll take that. Bailey Sirenen, 28 minutes, came in. I'm not 100%. I think he may have come on at prop. He was definitely playing in the middle there, and on at the same time as Walker. So I'm thinking he came on at prop. 47 metres, 6 runs, but for me, tackle efficiency 92%, 12 tackles made, no missed, and just the 1 ineffective. That's his best defensive effort, I think, this season. From an efficiency perspective, he struggled a little bit early on. So maybe it goes to show, like, it's good to have him that cover at hooker, but I thought he went really, really well there. The runs he made, he didn't lose anything, because he's definitely not as big as obviously the likes of AFB and probably Barnett, but definitely held his own in the middle. So maybe that's an interesting role for him, particularly while Jazz is out, having that bit of leg speed there. So yeah, 7 out of 10. Not too much you could complain about with his effort this weekend. Well done. Josh Curran, might be harsh on him, I'm not sure. 31 minutes played, just a 42 metres in the 4 runs. Tackle efficiency 68, 13 made, 2 misses and 4 ineffective, 2 tackle breaks and a line break. If his tackle numbers weren't as low with those ineffective and missed tackles, I probably would have given him more. I had to sort of mark him down a little bit for that. I don't know. Because watching live, I thought he played really, really well. Brought a lot of energy again. Maybe I'm a bit harsh. It could have been a 7. But yeah, I know it's frustrating for him. I saw the comments in the media this week, how he feels he's had a disappointing year not starting. But I think if you're going to start someone that's got it, Jackson plays 80 minutes, so that saves you 1 interchange. And if you're going to start either him or Marata, you start with Marata, because the energy I think that Curran brings there. We saw him go to centre again, which is really interesting, because Marata's played whole games at centre there for Power. I think he even played there in a grand final. But going for Curran at centre there rather than using Marata is an interesting way to there. So it shows you've got a bit of cover there. But I just like having those high energy players like him and Dylan and Jazz on the bench there when you're coming up against tired fullbacks. So maybe a little bit harsh, so don't get me wrong, I think he played well, but just that tackling, the couple of misses there and the ineffective tackles there, maybe it should have been a 7, I'm not sure. Some people say I'm too soft, some people say I'm too critical. Freddie Lussick, look, he didn't play a huge amount, and I gave him a 7, but I think he didn't do anything wrong when he came on. Playing for the 19 minutes here, and I think it showed, and like I said last week, it wasn't a criticism of Siro per se, that things dropped when he came on, because he's not a hooker, he's a middle or an edge forward, covering at hooker there, so he did a job. But I think there's a lot to be said for having a specialist there, because he didn't drop. The pass was still there, the fluidity was still there. So 19 minutes for 1 run. But 100% tackle efficiency, the 1 ruck infringement. But I just felt I gave him a 7 because there's a big expectation when Egan goes off, or there's a big platform, and I just didn't feel like there was a drop in the game this week. So I thought that's good to see that he's got the confidence to come in there after being dropped for a couple of weeks, not getting footy in first grade, just come in and hit the ground running. So well done to him. So all in all, look, it wasn't our best game that we've played all season, but we've just continued to win. We've continued to grind it out to do enough to beat these teams who are coming up. At this time of year, you get those who are fighting to make the eight, or those who want to disrupt, um, you know, the positioning of the top teams by getting that unexpected win, or guys playing for contracts next year. Again, a lot of these lower teams don't have a huge amount of representative players, so they're not fatigued from playing State of Origin and the like as well. So they do come and step up, and we saw again what happened in the week last night there from the Dragons, almost getting it one over the Storm. So I expect them to do the same next week. So for me, it's good to have these hard grinding out games and still being able to get them done when things aren't going your way, when teams are infringing against you. I think we maintained our discipline, and we didn't react this week with guys like Harper there putting the elbows in, whereas when we played against the Gold Coast, that niggly stuff did really get to us. So that shows we've made progression. The errors, I think that's just concentration. I don't think we see Egan doing that 2 weeks in a row. I think they'll definitely come up with an answer for what happened there on that our left edge there, their right edge, with letting Saab in for those 3 tries. I think we'll get that positioning play a little bit better. So all in all, we could have got that ball down more, and it could have been a much bigger scoreline. So I'm happy. What's that? 6 wins in a row now. I think that's our first time we've done that for about 15 years or something. I really hope we can go undefeated for the next 2 as well. Really curious to see how we deal with the bench rotation, and maybe giving a couple of players a break. I don't know, some people calling for SJ to have the week off against the Dolphins, but for that Dally M, man, I don't think he's going to be wanting to take a break, and I think he's one of those players of his feet, you keep playing him, so who knows. It's tough to be stuck here in Japan for next week, so I definitely won't be getting to the game, but I will be watching it live. For those who can get there, I hear it's a sellout already. Fire it up, get those voices chanting again. It was so cool to be a part of. Curious to see what team gets named on Tuesday. So much competition in there. Onwards and upwards. Another happy week, another happy Warriorholic. Look forward to seeing you next week.